I stared at the numbers on my monitor, double-checking the system diagnostics one last time before our quarterly maintenance update. 20 years of coding, debugging, and quietly keeping Meditech solutions running smoothly had taught me to be thorough. The familiar hum of servers in the background was oddly comforting, like an old friend's voice. "Margaret?" The sharp voice cut through my concentration. "My office. Now." I looked up to see Marcus Davidson, our new CEO of 6 months, standing in the doorway of my workspace. His pressed suit and carefully styled hair seemed out of place in the technical operations department. At 35, he was exactly half my age and had been brought in by the board to modernize our medical software company. I saved my work and followed him to his corner office, my steps measured and calm despite the tension in his voice. Through the glass walls, I could see other employees pretending not to watch. They knew, as I did, that Marcus had been making changes, aggressive ones. "Please sit," he gestured to the chair across from his desk, his forced smile not reaching his eyes. "Margaret, I'll get straight to the point. We're restructuring the technical operations department. As part of our modernization initiative, we're bringing in a younger team more familiar with current technologies." I kept my expression neutral, though my heart began to race. "I see, and my role in this restructuring." Marcus shuffled some papers on his desk, not meeting my eyes. "Unfortunately, your position has been eliminated. Your salary is, well, frankly, it's too expensive for what we need. We can hire 2 junior developers for what we're paying you. 20 years. 20 years of building systems from scratch, solving problems no one else could figure out, creating the very foundation this company now stood on, all reduced to a number on a spreadsheet." "When?" I asked simply. "End of the week. HR has prepared a severance package. 3 months' salary, standard non-compete agreement, nothing unusual." He pushed a folder across the desk. "We'll need you to transfer any relevant documentation to the transition team before you leave." I picked up the folder, my mind already racing ahead to the implications. "And the quarterly system update scheduled for next week." Marcus waved dismissively. "The new team will handle it. They're very capable, young, energetic, up to date with all the latest technologies." I nodded slowly, thinking about the legacy systems I had built, the customized solutions I created over 2 decades. Solutions that weren't documented anywhere except in my head. Solutions that kept critical medical data flowing between hospitals, insurance companies, and healthcare providers across the country. "Of course," I said, standing up. "I'll prepare the handover documents." "Great." Marcus's relief was palpable. He clearly expected me to break down, to beg, to cause a scene. "And Margaret? Let's keep this professional. No need to discuss it with the team yet." I smiled, and for a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across his face. "Don't worry, Marcus. I understand completely." Back at my desk, I began methodically organizing my files. My younger colleagues cast worried glances my way, but I kept my composure. They didn't know, couldn't know, that I was the architect of Meditech's core systems. Over the years, I built everything from the ground up, creating custom solutions now deeply embedded in the company's operations. The official documentation showed only the surface level, the basic functions, the standard procedures. But the real complexity, the crucial integrations, the fail-safes, and workarounds I'd developed, those existed only in my mind. I tried to document everything properly over the years, had requested additional staff to help with the process, but management had always considered it a low priority. Now, as I prepared my handover documents, I wondered how long it would take them to realize what they were losing. The quarterly update wasn't just routine maintenance, it was a complex dance of system integrations, security protocols, and custom algorithms that I'd refined over years. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. "Still on for dinner tonight?" I replied quickly, "Yes, and I have news." Later that evening, sitting in my sister's cozy kitchen, I finally let my guard down. "They're letting me go," I said, warming my hands around a mug of tea. "Too expensive, apparently. They want young blood." Janet, 5 years my junior and a tech executive herself, nearly choked on her wine. "Are you serious? Meditech? The company you basically built from nothing?" I nodded, allowing myself a small smile. "Marcus thinks 2 junior developers can replace me. He has no idea what's actually involved in running those systems." "What are you going to do?" Janet leaned forward, concern etched on her face. I took a sip of tea, considering my response. Nothing. Nothing. I'm going to do exactly what they asked. Prepare basic handover documents, pack up my things, and leave on Friday. I paused, meeting her eyes. And then I'm going to wait. Janet's eyes widened as understanding dawned. The quarterly update. It's next week, isn't it? I nodded. Monday morning. They think it's just routine maintenance. They don't know that each update requires manual interventions, custom scripts, and specific timing sequences that aren't documented anywhere. Because they never gave you the resources to properly document it, Janet finished, shaking her head. And the new team won't have a clue. The systems will start failing gradually at first, then all at once. Hospitals won't be able to access patient records, insurance claims will stop processing, and their entire network will grind to a halt. I set my mug down carefully, and the best part, I won't have done anything wrong. I'll have provided all the standard documentation they asked for. Janet whistled low. They're going to panic. Probably. I allowed myself another small smile. But I won't be their employee anymore, will I? I'll be a highly experienced independent consultant, available at my usual rates, plus a premium for emergency response, of course. Margaret, Janet said slowly, you beautiful, brilliant woman. You're not just going to make them regret firing you, you're going to make them pay for it. No, I corrected her. I'm going to make them understand exactly what they lost, and then I'm going to decide if I want to help them fix it. Monday morning dawned clear and crisp. I sat at my kitchen counter, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise, knowing that across town, Meditech's offices were about to experience what could only be described as a systematic meltdown. At precisely 6:00 a.m., the quarterly update would begin automatically. Jessica and her team would be following my documented procedures, confidently implementing what they believed was a routine maintenance update. By 6:30 a.m., the first warning signs would appear, subtle at first, easily dismissed by those who didn't know what to look for. My phone buzzed at 7:15 a.m., unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Margaret? This is Jessica. I'm trying to follow the update procedures, but we're seeing some unusual error messages. If you could call me back, I'd really appreciate it. I took another sip of coffee. Jessica sounded nervous, but not panicked. Not yet. By 8:00 a.m., my phone was lighting up regularly. Jessica again. The IT help desk, even Marcus's direct line. I silenced them all, opened my laptop, and began browsing job listings, not because I needed a job, but because I wanted to see what other companies were offering someone with my experience. At 8:45 a.m., an urgent email arrived from Marcus. Margaret, we're experiencing some technical difficulties with the update. Please call me ASAP. This is urgent. I could picture the scene unfolding at the office. Jessica and her team frantically trying to understand systems that went far deeper than the surface-level documentation. Marcus pacing in his expensive shoes, and hospital administrators starting to call about disruptions in their service. The next email came at 9:17 a.m., this time marked Crytex Hial. Margaret, multiple systems are failing. Client hospitals reporting serious issues. Need your expertise immediately. Will compensate for your time. Please respond. I finished my second cup of coffee and decided to take a walk. The morning was beautiful, the kind of day that reminded you life had more to offer than fluorescent-lit offices and ungrateful bosses. As I walked, my phone continued its steady stream of notifications. At 10:30 a.m., I received a text from Janet. Just heard from a friend at City General. Their entire medical record system is down. That's your handiwork, isn't it? I typed back, not my handiwork. Their new team's inexperience. They must be freaking out, Janet replied. Probably, I answered, then added a smiling emoji. By 11:00 a.m., the situation had escalated beyond Meditech's walls. Local news websites were reporting widespread technical issues affecting multiple hospitals in the region. Medical professionals couldn't access critical patient data. Insurance claims were stuck in limbo, and the entire healthcare network was grinding to a halt. My phone rang again. This time, a number I recognized. Arthur Chin, the head of the board of directors. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello, Arthur, I said calmly. Margaret. His voice was tight, controlled. We have a situation. So I've heard. The quarterly update has caused widespread system failures. Marcus tells me you provided documentation for the transition team. I did indeed. Everything they asked for. A pause. But not everything they needed. They didn't ask for everything they needed, Arthur. They asked for standard documentation, which is what I provided. Another pause, longer this time. How bad is it? I allow myself a small smile. That depends on whether they've tried to force a system restart yet. They're considering it now. Then it's about to get much worse. I kept my voice level. The failsafes I built into the system prevent unauthorized restarts during updates. If they try to force it, they'll corrupt the entire database structure. I heard Arthur inhale sharply. Why isn't this in the documentation? Because for 20 years, I requested resources to properly document the system's complexity. For 20 years, those requests were denied. I was told to focus on keeping things running instead. Margaret. Arthur's voice softened slightly. What do you want? Want? I echoed. I don't want anything, Arthur. I'm not your employee anymore. Marcus made that very clear when he said I was too expensive. As if on cue, my phone beeped with another incoming call. Marcus again. Your new team told you they could handle it. I continued. Young, energetic, up to date with all the latest technologies, I believe were the words used. Perhaps you should let them solve it. They can't, Arthur admitted. And you know they can't. Name your price, Margaret. Whatever you want. I let the silence stretch for a moment. I'm sorry, Arthur, but I have another call coming in. Must be important. It's been ringing all morning. I ended the call and checked my watch. Nearly noon. Right on schedule. My phone immediately rang again. Marcus. This time I answered. Margaret. His voice was frantic. Thank God. We need you back here immediately. The whole system is crashing. Hospitals can't access their data. Nothing is working. Hello, Marcus, I said calmly. Having trouble with the update. Trouble? It's a disaster. Your documentation, it's incomplete or wrong, or we need you to come in and fix this. I could hear voices in the background, angry voices, desperate voices. My documentation is exactly what you asked for, I replied. Standard procedures, basic protocols. You said you didn't need every little detail. Margaret, please. His voice cracked slightly. I'll double your old salary. Triple it. Just come in and fix this. I thought about all the late nights I'd worked, the weekends sacrificed, the holidays spent troubleshooting emergencies. I thought about the dismissive way Marcus had treated me, how quickly he'd decided 20 years of experience was worth less than young energy and fresh faces. I'm not interested in coming back as an employee, Marcus. Then as a consultant, name your rate. My consulting rate is $5,000 per day, I said, with a 5-day minimum commitment. Emergency response fees are extra. Done, he said quickly, too quickly. Whatever you want, just please come in. I can be there in an hour, I said. But first, I want something in writing. Have HR draw up a consulting agreement. Include a clause that acknowledges my intellectual property rights to all custom systems and integrations I developed during my tenure. And Marcus? Yes. Don't let your team try to restart the system. That would be unfortunate. I ended the call and texted Janet. It's happening. Want to meet for lunch? Absolutely, she replied. Tell me everything. Over lunch at our favorite cafe, I filled Janet in on the morning's events. She alternated between laughing and shaking her head in disbelief. So what's your plan? She asked finally. You're not really going to help them, are you? Of course I am, I replied, finishing my salad. But on my terms. They need to understand that expertise has value. Experience has value. And treating loyal employees as disposable assets has consequences. And after I fix it, I'll have a very lucrative consulting contract, complete control over my schedule, and a satisfaction of knowing they'll never underestimate me again. My phone buzzed, an email from HR with a consulting agreement attached. I scanned it quickly, noting they'd included everything I asked for, plus a few extras. They were desperate. Besides, I added, showing Janet the proposed hourly rate. It turns out I wasn't too expensive after all. At 1:30 p.m., I walked back into Meditech's offices not as a dismissed employee but as their salvation. The atmosphere was tense, people huddled around computers, phones ringing constantly, the kind of controlled chaos that preceded total collapse. Marcus met me at the reception desk, his earlier arrogance replaced by barely concealed panic. "Thank God you're here," he said, leading me toward the technical operations department. "It's gotten worse." "I know," I replied calmly. "That's what happens when inexperienced teams try to manage complex systems they don't understand." We reached my old desk, where Jessica and her team were frantically reviewing error logs. Their young, energetic faces now showed exhaustion and fear. "All right," I said, setting down my laptop bag. "Let's see what damage has been done." As I logged into the system, I could feel them all watching me. Marcus, Jessica, the other developers. They were about to learn exactly what 20 years of experience looked like in action. And this was just the beginning. The first thing I noticed when I accessed the system was exactly what I'd expected: multiple failed attempts to force restart the servers. I glanced at Jessica, who had the grace to look embarrassed. "Let me guess," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "You tried to restart when the initial errors appeared." "We thought," she started, then faltered. "The documentation didn't say we couldn't." "No," I agreed, my fingers flying over the keyboard. "It didn't." I pulled up the core system architecture, the real one, not the simplified version I'd left in the documentation. Lines of custom code filled the screen, elegant solutions to complex problems that had evolved over 2 decades. Marcus leaned over my shoulder. "What is all this? This isn't in any of our documentation." "This," I said, not pausing in my work, "is 20 years of institutional knowledge. This is what you decided was too expensive to keep." I could feel the tension in the room shift. The young developers weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were watching my hands move across the keyboard with something approaching awe. "How long will it take to fix?" Marcus asked, his voice tight. I sat back in my chair. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you want a quick fix or a proper solution." I turned to face him. "A quick fix will get basic systems running again, but it won't prevent this from happening next quarter. A proper solution requires time, documentation, and training." Marcus glanced at his watch. "We have 14 hospitals completely offline. Quick fix first." I nodded and turned back to my screen. "Jessica, come here. You should see this." For the next 2 hours, I worked steadily, explaining each step to Jessica as I went. To her credit, she was a quick study, asking intelligent questions and taking careful notes. The others gathered around, watching as I navigated through systems they hadn't even known existed. "This authentication bypass," one of the younger developers said, pointing at my screen. "That's brilliant. Did you write this?" "Built it in 2008, I replied, continuing to type. "When the state changed their medical records requirements but didn't provide an API. We needed a solution in 48 hours. And this error handling system." 2015. After the ransomware attacks started targeting hospitals, it saved us from 3 major attempts since then. Gradually, I could see understanding dawn on their faces. They were beginning to realize that what they dismissed as outdated was actually a sophisticated, battle-tested system that had evolved to meet real-world challenges. At 4:45 p.m., I entered the final command sequence. "System restore commencing," I announced. "Basic functions should be back online in about 20 minutes." Marcus, who had been pacing nearby, rushed over. "It's working." "The immediate crisis is resolved," I confirmed. "But there are underlying issues that need addressing." "Whatever you need," he said quickly. "Just tell me what it will take." I closed my laptop. "First, your team needs proper training, not just on the surface systems, but on the entire architecture. That means extending my consulting contract." He nodded eagerly. "Second, I'll need full authority to implement a comprehensive documentation system. No shortcuts, no budget constraints." "Done." "And third," I said, standing up, "I want a meeting with the board tomorrow morning. There are some structural changes we need to discuss." Marcus hesitated for the first time. "What kind of changes?" "The kind that ensure this never happens again." I gathered my things. "Have HR revise my contract to include these terms. I'll review it in the morning before the board meeting." As I walked toward the elevator, Jessica hurried after me. "Margaret, wait." I turned. She looked down, then met my eyes. "I'm sorry. We were so focused on modernizing everything, we didn't understand what we were dealing with. Would you be willing to teach me? Really teach me? I studied her face, the genuine humility there, the eagerness to learn. Be here at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Bring coffee, it's going to be a long day. She broke into a smile. Thank you. I won't let you down. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Marcus still standing by my old desk, looking shell-shocked. He had wanted young blood, fresh perspectives. Instead, he'd learned an expensive lesson about the value of experience. The next morning, I arrived early. Jessica was already there, 2 cups of coffee in hand. The hospitals? I asked, accepting one of the cups. All back online, she reported. No data loss. But we had some issues with the insurance processing overnight. Expected, I nodded. We'll fix those this morning. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. As I walked into the conference room, I saw not just the board members, but also the heads of every department. Arthur Chen sat at the head of the table, Marcus to his right. Margaret, Arthur gestured to an empty chair. Thank you for joining us. I took my seat, opened my laptop, and began my presentation. For the next hour, I walked them through everything, the complexity of our systems, the risks of hasty modernization, the real cost of losing institutional knowledge. Yesterday's events, I concluded, were not a failure of technology. They were a failure of management. You cannot replace experience with enthusiasm and expect the same results. The room was silent. Arthur leaned forward. What do you propose? I laid out my plan, a comprehensive training program, a proper documentation system, and most importantly, a new department structure that respected and retained experienced staff while integrating new talent. And you'll oversee this? Arthur asked. As a consultant, yes. At my stated rates. I smiled slightly. After all, we wouldn't want me to be too expensive. Marcus flinched. Several board members tried to hide their smiles. I think, Arthur said, looking around the table, we can all agree that the cost of experience is far less than the cost of losing it. Does anyone object to Margaret's proposals? No one did. As the meeting concluded, I caught Marcus trying to slip out quietly. Marcus, I called after him. One more thing. He turned, his face a mix of embarrassment and resignation. Those 2 junior developers you said could replace me. Keep them. Under proper training, they could be excellent additions to the team. I paused. Just remember, youth and experience aren't mutually exclusive. The best teams have both. He nodded, finally understanding a lesson that had cost his company so dearly. As I walked back to the technical operations department, where Jessica waited with questions about the insurance processing system, I felt a deep satisfaction. Not because I'd proven them wrong, but because I'd proven something to myself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about showing your true value and making sure they never forget it again. 6 months later, I sat in my new private office at Meditech, reviewing the quarterly performance reports. The view of the city skyline was a nice touch, part of the company's efforts to demonstrate how much they valued their senior technical consultants. The changes we'd implemented were showing remarkable results. System efficiency had improved by 40%, client satisfaction scores were at an all-time high, and our emergency response times had been cut in half. More importantly, we hadn't had a single major system failure since that fateful Monday. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Jessica stood there, tablet in hand, looking confident in a way that had nothing to do with youth and everything to do with earned experience. The new documentation system is complete, she announced proudly. Every custom integration, every failsafe, every workaround. It's all there fully detailed and peer-reviewed. I smiled. Well done. How long did it take? 3 months, just like you said it would. She shook her head. I can't believe they never gave you the resources to do this before. Sometimes, I replied, people have to learn lessons the hard way. Marcus had learned his lesson indeed. He'd been quietly demoted 2 months ago, moved to a position with less direct authority. The board had decided that someone who couldn't recognize and retain valuable talent shouldn't be in charge of personnel decisions. My phone buzzed. A message from Janet. Lunch. I want to hear about the advisory board meeting. Ah yes, the advisory board. Another change that had come out of that crisis. I was now a member, along with other senior technical staff. providing guidance on major company decisions. It turned out that experience was valuable not just for technical knowledge, but for strategic planning as well. Meeting in 5 minutes, Jessica reminded me. The new development team wants to present their modernization proposal. I gathered my things, remembering how different things had been half a year ago. The new team was a perfect blend of youth and experience, eager young developers paired with seasoned professionals who could guide them. They learned from each other, respected each other, and together were creating something better than either group could have achieved alone. In the conference room, I took my seat next to Arthur Chen, who had become one of my strongest supporters. "Hard to believe it's been 6 months," he murmured as the team set up their presentation. "Since the great system collapse?" I asked innocently. He smiled. "Since we learned what too expensive really means." The presentation was excellent, innovative ideas tempered by practical considerations, new technologies integrated thoughtfully with existing systems. This was how modernization should work: evolution, not revolution. After the meeting, I returned to my office to find an email from a major healthcare provider. "Dear Ms. Parker, having heard about your remarkable work at Meditech, we would like to discuss the possibility of consulting on our own systems upgrade." I leaned back in my chair, smiling. My consulting rates had doubled since that Monday morning, and I now had the luxury of choosing which projects interested me. It turned out that being too expensive had made me more valuable than ever. That evening, as I prepared to leave, I passed my old desk in the technical operations department. It had been transformed into a training station, where new hires learned the fundamentals of our systems under proper supervision. On the wall above it hung a framed quote: "Experience is not expensive, it's priceless." Jessica had put it there as a joke, but it had become something of a department motto. As I walked to my car, I thought about how things had changed. I was no longer just the old guard, the expensive legacy employee who needed to be replaced. I was a highly paid consultant, an advisory board member, and a mentor to a new generation of talented developers. My phone buzzed one last time, another message from Janet. "Don't forget, retirement planning meeting tomorrow." I laughed out loud. Retirement? No, I wasn't done yet. There were still systems to build, people to teach, lessons to share. After all, some things are worth every penny they cost. And now, finally, everyone knew it. The next morning, I arrived early as usual, carrying coffee for myself and Jessica. As I watched the sunrise paint the sky over the city, I smiled, remembering Marcus's words from 6 months ago. "Too expensive," he had said. Now I was earning 3 times my old salary, working on my own terms, and valued not despite my experience, but because of it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about proving that your worth goes far beyond any number on a spreadsheet. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about teaching others the true cost of undervaluing experience. I took a sip of my coffee and opened my laptop. Another busy day ahead, and I wouldn't have it any other way.